Hey, what's up guys, I'm Sami, and in this video we're going over a $750 custom gaming PC build that's gonna be able to max out games at a 60 FPS when you're running at 1080p or even 1440p. You will be getting some crazy value out of this PC because of the parts that I've chosen for you, and as usual, links to all of the parts here will be down in the description below that subscribe button. So let's just kick things off with our CPU, and because we're looking to get the best price to performance ratio, we're going for the AMD Ryzen 1500X. Now this is an amazing choice because you're essentially paying for a CPU with 4 cores, but because it supports simultaneous multi-threaded cores, it actually performs as 8 separate cores for your operating system. That means it's going to be able to do a lot of heavy lifting, so this is going to be a very powerful CPU in the more demanding games like Arma 3 and Battlefield 1. For less than $400, this is really hard to beat if you're looking for something as good in terms of value. So for our GPU, we're going for another price to performance beast, which is of course going to be the GTX 1060. It costs just under $200, and this is an extremely powerful card that's gonna max out games and still keep a high FPS count running at 1080p and 1440p. This card specifically is a great pick for this build because it has a boost clock speed of 1771 MHz while gaming, which is gonna really help amp up the performance and get the highest frame rate possible. It's also extremely good for future-proofing because this card can even go right up to 8K resolution, which is absolutely crazy to think about at the moment. Now that said, probably my favorite aspect about this card, and it's actually quite trivial, is actually that it comes with a protective casing on the bottom. So that means you can't accidentally touch or damage the PCB board while you're installing it, and it is unlikely to get damaged anyway, but it just feels really nice to have that extra assurance that nothing will actually happen, and it really feels good when you're just handling the card in general. So there isn't going to be a huge difference between different 1060 cards. It's really about what's convenient, and this definitely ticks that box. If you follow the free Amazon Prime link in the description, you can also get fast delivery on all of the products here, which is obviously super convenient. I've had it continuously for a couple years now, and I absolutely love it. I'd recommend that everyone gets it. Now you guys are gonna absolutely love me for this because I've also included a 240GB SSD from SanDisk, which is one of the best SSD manufacturers out there. It only costs $80, and for that, you're gonna get extremely fast speeds, and this is actually quite a lot of SSD space, so not only will you be able to load Windows 10 on here, but you can also put a bunch of your favorite games here too, so that you can get fast loading times on everything. I've owned a few SSDs for my PC, and it's honestly something that you can never go back from once you try it just one time, and I think you guys are gonna love it too. For those who don't actually know, it might feel normal to boot up your operating system in, say, a minute or two. With an SSD like this, it's gonna jump right down to something like 10 seconds, which is amazing, and it just feels really good in your daily use. So for the RAM, we've gone for two 4GB sticks from Ballistics, and this is actually just a really standard choice, which I'd recommend you look out to find yourself. That's because you can probably find RAM on really good flash sales if you're lucky, but if not, this is gonna be a pretty good choice anyway for just $70. As usual, I've picked out two 4GB sticks because that means you're always sending 2 streams of data to the CPU at one time. You essentially double the speed that the RAM can work at if it was just one, which is why I always recommend splitting it up if you can. As for the case, we've gone for the trusted Corsair Carbide 100R. This is a great case featuring a window panel, so you can look inside, and I personally think that when it comes to cases, less is more, so this design is really doing it for me. I've also of course been reading your feedback all the time, and some of you mentioned that you want to see bigger and more beefy cases, so instead of micro ATX, this one is going to be ATX as well. That means you can fit in a lot with this case, and if you're down, you can even use an aftermarket CPU cooler to really get the best performance possible out of this PC. It's not necessary, but for those of you who want that, here it is. Now, because this case isn't actually one of the cheaper ones, that means it's built really well. You're going to have a good time when you're installing parts in this. If you want to upgrade in the future, you're not going to run into any issues. That's an issue I had with my first gaming PC. I really skimped out on the case and I regret doing that now. I still have the same case and I just wish I never took it in the first place. It's really cramped and bad to work in, so I'd recommend that if you're gonna buy a case and you have a budget like $750, you should get something like this. The power supply is going to be from EVGA at 500 watts. For 35 bucks, this is going to be a solid choice for the build because that's going to give you a bit of headroom as well. The components we've chosen in this build are also pretty good with energy efficiency, so everything is just going to tie in quite well. Now, if, like I mentioned earlier, you plan on upgrading your CPU cooler in the future, you will most likely need a more powerful power supply, so in that case you should bump that up to at least 650 watts. That said, I'm gonna guess that most of you aren't interested in it, and that is completely fine because you really don't need to get a really good experience out of this build. I didn't overclock my PC for a couple years and it's honestly just completely fine without doing it anyway. And of course the motherboard is going to be the MSI Pro Series B350M, which is going to be a great fit for this build. It also allows you to overclock, which is obviously great for future-proofing, but if you want to go for something else, this is again something where you can probably have some leeway and choose something that you prefer to have. Of course, the case is ATX, so if you want a bigger motherboard, you can also go for that, but it really doesn't affect anything. You just need to make sure that whatever motherboard you do pick is the right generation of motherboards like this one is. So this PC build is going to do absolutely great in terms of frame rates, even at high settings, and this goes for all games, you know, whether it's GTA 5, Battlefield 1, H1Z1, whatever you can think of, this PC pretty much comes with no compromises. It's fast, of course, with the SSD as well, and I think you guys are absolutely going to love it. Of course, if you have any questions, make sure you drop them down below in the comments so I can get back to you. I reply to all of my comments on the newest videos, so that means if you do have any questions, I will always try to get back to you as quickly as I can. I check my comments every day, so I will be able to reply to you. But guys, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new around here. Lots more PC builds coming up soon. Let me know if you want to see any other sort of budget builds, maybe $500, $400, whatever you like. I'll go and look into getting that up. But guys, with that, I'm out. Peace.